So do you want to give an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, I go by Mini Miss in my little space, sometimes just Mini. On Instagram, my platform is at little and pink with a little period in between all of the words. I started my little space account back in June of 23, and I've just been kind of connecting with other people in and around the community since then.
It's been quite recently that you started your Instagram. What was the reason why you wanted to create your account?
So I've had other Instagram accounts that I either used for like personal things or different promotional things in more my adult headspace. I got really inspired looking at some other little space creators because my mama was sending them to me as a little bit of reassurance because I was really, really shy with my little space and I didn't feel super comfortable talking about it or sharing it with anybody in my real life. Having that outlet and seeing other people express it online, I felt like that was a safer place for me to share that bit of myself, to be able to express it and not feel so shy about it. I think some of the ones that she had sent me was like Cat BB and Memoirs of a Panda, but just some other very, very kind and inspiring creators, and getting to connect with them. It just really encouraged me to start my own account. It's been a very freeing experience to be able to express that in a more open way and not feel so scared about it.
You must be happy for to found the space to be comfortably be yourself. It's harder then when you haven't got a community in real life that you can actually access and engage with and feel normalized with it. Did you start with age regression? Where did you think it started from?
It's just kind of always been a part of who I am just as a person. Even whenever I was a lot younger, I remember one of the things I would get in trouble for the most is my parents would tell me to act my age because I still expressed the youthful side of my personality as I was growing up. I used to get in trouble for baby talking. It was always really confusing to me because my parents would tell me to stop acting like a little kid, but I'm a little kid. Then weirdly, that little feeling never really went away. It just stayed a part of who I am. And it was something that I could express my outward appearance. Like I would always be really into like really cute clothes. I always really liked my stuffed animals. And there was like a way that I could kind of tap into it that felt socially acceptable. And I think it was like 2021 when I started getting more involved with other people that also have little space parts of themselves. And I thought it was really funny because they would point out, they're like, "You're a little, aren't you?" And I was like, "I don't know what that means." It's just a part of my personality and the general aura that I give off. So I just kind of got really into what that meant for me. At the time, I was also going through a divorce. I was going to be living alone again and starting to figure out what being myself and expressing myself fully and happily meant for me, rather than just like living the way that I thought that I was supposed to. I really started nurturing that side of myself more and just giving my inner child the care and the love and the attention that I didn't always get when I was an actual child. I had 7 siblings, so it was probably pretty difficult for my parents to keep track of all of us at once. But it was just really nice to give myself that space. And then also meeting mama and having her be so supportive of it, just really giving me that opening to not feel ashamed, was a really great moment and helped me to start exploring it. And I feel very like comfortable in it now.
What was it like then when you found about little space and age regression and what that meant when you were younger? Like speaking like somebody a lot younger than your age and we're enjoying what could comfort anyone could toys more beyond that as yourself and how we use pacifiers.
It was like really hard at first, even though I felt like loved and accepted. I still felt a little embarrassed because I'm a grown up and I'm supposed to do grown up things, even if it makes me sad and miserable all the time. I would often just regress more on my own. So whenever I was not working, or usually like in the evenings, I would find something to put on the TV, or I would break out some of my toys that I still have to play with, just let myself immerse in it. It was still so early on that I felt nervous to even be open about my regression with mama. I was one on one with myself, regressing for a few months before I ever actually did it in front of mama. Still kind of getting into that headspace where I don't feel so vulnerable being around other people in my little space. I'm noticing as I get more and more into it, it's becoming a comfortable part of my life. A lot of the times when I'm not working, or when I just need a little bit of extra comfort, it's a space that I go to.
It has taken you a while to get into feeling comfortable within yourself, embracing who you are, and this is part of your identity. And I understand how there is a lot of stigma attached, and a lot would make you hard to take that kind of bit of embarrassment off your shoulder. Get rid of judgment of thinking what other people would think, and allowing yourself to enjoy it as what how you should be able to enjoy it as, like it's a be a space where you can feel happy and comfortable with. What has been like the benefits of exploring this space for you?
It's got a lot of benefits. First is that I've been finding more and more that so many people within a community that don't necessarily feel like a part of the community themselves. Like they're all kind and wonderful people that I've been able to meet. Even in real life, I've been able to meet other caregivers and other littles that are just nice people to be around. And I feel very accepted and very supported to be able to go into that space myself. I'm not going to be judged. And when I started getting into using the passies, I found that it was really helpful with some of my stimming behaviors. So, like one of them that I have that's really bad is I'll lick the back of my teeth, and no one can really tell when I'm doing it. But if I do it for too long, then I'll make my tongue bleed, and that hurts.
Yeah.
So, use the passy, it keeps me from doing that, and then I don't hurt myself so much. So I've been finding a lot of benefits to it aside from just giving me a comfort space and making me feel less sad in general in my
Yeah.
day-to-day life.
When you said about stimming, it's something that get talked about in the autistic, neurodivergent, ADHD community and mental health conditions. When did you learn about stimming, and what does learn about that term meant for you?
It's pretty interesting for me because in my non-little space life, I am in grad school working on a master's in mental health. So it is really fascinating to look into how these different mental disorders and illnesses really work to affect our brain chemistry, and how it shows up differently in different people. I know, like in myself, it shows up a lot in people pleasy ways and with a lot of stimming, and I talk a lot. There's so many different ways that I feel like it shows up in people, and getting a chance to understand how it shows up in myself, I think makes me feel like I can connect better with other people that go through some of the same experiences that I do. And even just getting that space to shrink back into my comfort zone whenever I'm starting to feel overwhelmed has been very invaluable to me.
Yeah, I can imagine it would quite help you a lot then when you're like in grad school studying mental health. It's something quite good to be age regressing yourself with something that is more common in the world of people in terms of people with mental health conditions or mental illnesses, that they may age regress, and it's something that isn't talked about enough and isn't explored enough, that can understand the behaviors of age regression to the extent that we can make people feel a bit more valid and recognized as for their behaviors. There's so much stigma around age regression as a thing, and it's like not many mental health professionals or medical people may understand enough about it. Do you think has it helped you to like learn about the understanding within the more medical community of mental health, academic community, and studying in mental health in grad school. What's that been like for yourself and the things that you learned and to help you understand around stuff around your own mental health and the mental health of others?
From a mental health perspective, I have not found anything wrong with it per se. And that's one thing that I was worried about a little bit whenever I first started exploring my little space. It was like, is the mental health community like largely against age regression as like a coping mechanism or a therapy? I've not really found anything substantial that to me says it's not okay. Actually, there are some specialists that work very heavily with what is called play therapy, and it's primarily used on children in order to put them into a comfortable space where they feel like they can open up in a way that is comfortable for them and talk about things that are difficult. And I truly do believe that play therapy is something that adults need too. Like that need for play and joy doesn't necessarily go away just because we get older. It's still a part of who we are, and you see it in every animal species ever. My dog is now an adult dog. It doesn't mean that she doesn't still want to play and run around and have fun. And I think that the way that our society has kind of shifted into a very economically driven model, it encourages people to work and grind and always be on, and that can be really hard on our mental states. So we're not actually giving our brains that time to rest and to reconnect with ourselves and what really brings us joy in life. And so I think from a mental health perspective, and I'm still learning a lot, I'm still in school. I think actually this next semester I'm about to start learning things like abnormal psychology and things about how medication interferes with our brain chemistry. So I still have a lot to learn, but overall, I think that age regression has really great opportunities for people to explore who they are outside of their work-life balance. I think we've gotten into a part of our society where the work-life balance leans heavily on the work side, and it's like where's the life, where's the balance that we can actually like explore in ourselves and really work towards what makes us happy.
We shouldn't be defined by our jobs, our work. It doesn't give us the space to relax and switch off and take care of our own mental health. Overcoming the barriers around age regression and what that can mean for ourselves, then it does make things better for yourself and your mental when you start using pacifiers. That's something that helps your teeth and your mouth and just like making sure you don't harm yourself as much with like pain or bleeding comes over. And it's something that when I started using adult pacifiers, like I grind my teeth quite a lot. And it's like I know it's definitely not as comfortable as using them like around the house. I think it's like something I'd like to work on, but like something that does have that element of working on your own confidence with it. When did you start using adult pacifier? What made you want to try using them?
I was really curious when I had started following Kitten and a few other little space, and I had seen them using them, and I hadn't ever really thought about using one myself. As I was really starting to explore, Mama saw that curiosity in me, and she actually sent me one in the mail, as well as this is my little space journal, and she sent that to me too. And so then I had one that I could try if I wanted to. And the whole thing was like, maybe it's not going to be something that you enjoy, but this is your first one to try if you want to. I did, and I noticed that it really helped with some of my stimming behaviors, but also it was just really comfortable. I always just had a bit of an oral fixation, so I would bite my fingernails or try to like chew on something, but that's not really good for your teeth. It was good to get to explore that. And then she was really intentional about getting me one that was just very plain so that if I wanted to, I could decorate it because I tend to be very crafty in my spare time. And so I did. I decorated it a little bit, and now I've decorated several passies and given some to friends. And it's a fun comfort item.
Yeah.
Now I think I have so many. Like I think this is one that I decorated, and it has sensory beads on it, so I can kind of play with it. That's really how I got into to using them, and now I just have them all over my house.
Oh, well, that's them, being that comfortable with, it's something that I hope to eventually be that comfortable with using them. Can you explain about your relation with your partner we call how did you like get into that relationship and get to use the name?
I met her online. It was back whenever I lived in Kansas. At the time, I already had someone that I called Daddy. He was a partner previously. So as I was getting to know Mama, we were talking a little bit online. I think it was through a dating app. I was just interested in getting to know her as a person. There wasn't really any consideration with my little space because I engaged with it a little bit, and I had a person that I called Daddy, and I would sometimes have specific little space where I would hang out with my stuffies and we would watch cartoons. But that was really the extent of what I was exploring with it at the time. I went on a date and it was really good. We went to a museum and then went and got Italian food. And I met her and she was just so pretty. I was completely blown away at just like, first off, I didn't believe she was real when I met her on a dating app. Then I met her in person and she was real, and she gave me a flower, and she was just the nicest human being I've ever met in my life. I kept wanting to see her, and over time as we're getting to know each other, I opened up with her a little bit about my other partner that I had who I called Daddy. And that was kind of her introduction to my little space and that I had it in general. It turns out that she also has a CG space. So it was something that she was not only open to exploring, but she was open to taking on that role, which worked out really well because my previous CG relationship, that Daddy that I had, turned out to be not the best person for me to be around and engage with and talk to. I don't see that person anymore. I was kind of floored. I was alone in my CGL space, and she really quickly took to caring for me and loving on me and reminding me that I am safe and loved, and really encouraged me to get to know that part of myself even more. Like I said, I was engaging a little bit with my little space, but it was more reactive. It was whatever that Daddy character wanted out of my little space, and it was less like, what do I want out of my little space? And she really opened up that for me to be able to explore. That is why so much of the development in my age regression has happened in this last year, because I've really been able to explore what it means to me. And now that we live far away, it's a little tricky because I moved across the country and we are long distance now, and we still see each other roughly 4 times a year. I went and saw her around Halloween, and then I'm planning to go see her again around Valentine's Day. We spend a week together, but it's tricky because she is so far away. So sometimes we'll do CGL video calls where we specifically set up time for me to be little and for her to be Mama, and we do activities together. Like the last one that we did paper craft, and so we cut out little Christmas sweaters and then we decorated them with some of the different craft supplies that we had, and then we showed each other what we made. And then she also taught me how to make slime, and I made a slime. She's very good about being intentional and giving me that time, even though we can't be physically close together right now. So I feel very lucky and loved by her.
You found yourself quite glad in a current relationship here with her because you can have your safe space, kind of comfortably be yourself, and she's allowed you to explore more of yourself and explore your inner child and help for the past 12 months for yourself as allowed you to explore to be much of a child when I was young, and I assume that there's some stuff that, like, it might have been through that, exploring your, like, little space, and it helps with, and, like, dealing with some of the big emotions they had over the years then.
I definitely have some of those big emotions. I did that yesterday. It helps that she is able to recognize that in me, and she'll call me and we'll just video call and talk. And it's nice to have like a really caring and loving partner to talk to about that kind of stuff, because sometimes I feel silly whenever I'm like crying
Yeah.
and freaking out. But she's always been very understanding about it. And she knows that like if I don't give myself my little space time, that I'm going to be a lot more likely to be really sad or cranky or frustrated, because I've not been giving myself that care. And so sometimes she reminds me to take care of her little for her because I am far away and she can't be here.
Being able to divergent myself, like, I need space and time just to relax. Like, everyone that needs, and that looks different for everyone else. For age aggressors and people who identify as littles, it's like you need that space, whether it's like involuntary or voluntary, recognizing that you need that space to relax, comfort yourself, and not to become overwhelmed, get too burnt out, start struggling with your mental health.
Definitely. Because in our day-to-day lives, like we're always out in the world, like masking and like putting
Yeah.
on show of this is who I am. And there's that part of us that everybody sees, but then there's a part that nobody sees. And I think that's really where a lot of getting comfortable with my little space and my age regression has come in. Having the Instagram account has been really helpful because it does make me feel there's others like me out there and I'm not quite so alone. But sometimes it also gets a little bit scary because people message me very uncomfortable things sometimes.
There's definitely that, like, side of things where you get some people who, like, end up having this, or kinky relation to a thing which it's totally okay for them, but it's like something that we gotta be able to, like, separate and respect people's, like, spaces, as like on your account, that you say that for your mini miss account, you say that it's all non-sexual, age regress, nothing to do with, nothing to be sexualized and anything like that. And that's thing with social media. Like, sometimes, like, you get that issue of some women in particular do end up sexualized or given messages that would make them feel uncomfortable, and then get sexualized without consent. Then there's an issue then for age regressors. Guess
Yeah,
it's something that you've experienced yourself. It's something that, there's a lot of stigma. So what was it like then finding that space to have a relationship where you call your partner mama?
so I think boundaries are really important in that regard. Like, for example, I don't call my partner mama whenever we're doing grown up things. She doesn't use the nicknames that she calls me when I'm in my little space when we're doing grown up things. So that really helps to create that separation. It's almost like having like an inside version and an outside version, stuff that we're okay with people seeing, and vice versa. So I think just that linguistic change really helps, and setting up specific to really nurture my little, just at that point we'll set up like, how about it at this time on this day we'll do an activity and you can be as little as you want until you're ready to not be. And we try to do that either through video call or whenever I'm visiting with her. We always want to try to have CGL time because we don't get to do that together very often. Just being really intentional about it, I think, has been the biggest help in keeping it separated. I don't know that we've had very many issues with it leading into each other, but I have been working on getting better about telling her when I'm in little space by myself, because I live by myself and I also live very far away from her. Sometimes it is very therapeutic and I need it at that moment, but I'm not like with her and we don't have anything planned. So I'll just grab toys or onesie or passy or whatever I need that day. And I will do my regression all by myself. But sometimes I forget to tell her. And if I do remember to tell her, she gets really good about switching up the way that she is talking with me, more from grown-up speak and into age regressed speak. It's just a little bit different of an interaction.
The difficulty then is when you're doing a long distance relationship and making that work in terms of how what space into how you wish to be talked at that certain time, and by the sounds of it then, because like as you said, that's before she started dating you, then it's something that I think you said that she's been in that space before where she's been a caregiver, and something that is kind of totally understood from the off that like she found ways of knowing how to read and interpret what your needs are. And it seems like you greater understanding what both of you need. For anyone who wants to like explore in an education relationship and explore that, what are your like tips and advice for people and the things that people to know when establishing boundaries?
I do have advice. I think it's just really important to be able to set those boundaries whenever you're regressing, whether it be with people that you know in real life, if they happen to know about your age regression. I don't personally have a ton of people in real life that know about mine, but the people that I do know very much love and care for me and want to keep me safe. So even if I'm setting boundaries with someone and they're not respecting those boundaries, I can always direct them to mama or one of my friends and be like, okay, you now have to go be vetted through this person before you can keep talking to me because you're making me uncomfortable. Like that regression and little space, it is so sacred of a comfort space that it's so important to find people that are willing to understand and respect those boundaries, because otherwise you could be putting yourself in a situation that doesn't feel very good and doesn't make you feel safe and comfortable in your little space.
Yeah, because I like the importance of either having a caregiver or somebody who like offend age regresses yourself, or just any friend in the family that you can like talk about anything, just to have somebody that you into that, whether you're online with it or in real life, just to have somebody there that I can talk through nasty stuff you might be dealing with, or anything that may be like go against the boundaries and crosses the boundaries, making sure that work on establishing what your boundaries are and what you're okay with, and what makes you uncomfortable or makes you uncomfortable. Those are important things that, like, as you listen to that, you think that is important to establish, as well as kind of listen to your emotions, try and work out what the boundaries are and what you are comfortable with. You've had a previous, like, relationship of somebody who you called daddy. Like, what was the things that you learned? What are the things that helped your relationship with your mom, and how to make yourself feel a bit more comfortable when you're making your age regression content of, like, what boundaries they could set.
So that's been something that I do kind of struggle with, and I've been working on a lot because I am naturally very much a people pleaser. I want to make everybody happy, but I can't do that and keep myself comfortable and safe all the time. So one of the boundaries that I have set is like if any other CGs want to message with me, they really need to message mama first and make sure that she says that they're safe and that they are okay to talk to me. I think I have that in one of my like frequently asked questions pinned posts, but I also worked because it was something that people were not really respecting on their own. I was still getting a lot of really uncomfortable messages just flooding in every day. I ended up going through my message settings in Instagram and I made it to where only people that like we follow each other.
Yeah,
So those are the only people that can message me instantly. Everybody else, it'll just it doesn't give them the option to
yeah,
message me and have to talk to mama first. And then once she tells me that this person is okay to message me, then I will engage with them. So that was one really big boundary that helped a lot, because before everything would go into that hidden folder on Instagram, and that's cool. It's nice to not have it immediately
yeah,
in my primary folder, but I would still see that little like notification number in the corner, which I was like, now I gotta go look at it. Then I would read through it, and it was just some of the most heinous things, and it was almost a little traumatizing for me when I was in my age regress state.
Yeah.
That needed to be a boundary that I put in place.
I guess from yourself, when you said that, from when you was younger, we start out as like when you're like baby talk or like little talk. I guess it's not sometimes like the best space where you feel equipped to like communicate and advocate for yourself. Like one of those things that is then quite difficult to know because it can you can feel quite vulnerable in that space. It is important to find those the people that you can trust to talk to.
Definitely. I think it's just really valuable to have those connections with people that like are safe. I'm very lucky. I've got people that I can meet in real life that understand and support me and respect my boundaries. And there's also people that I've met online that are very similar in that regard. And I feel really lucky to have been able to build that community and get to know people and to connect with so many people.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like a little happy whenever I like make content and people will comment or message me just like this really brightened up my day, thanks. And it brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, because that's when like the real benefit of social media is for like you in little space and anybody who is like from a community that in real life that you might not have an obvious place where you can meet up or talk to and like express yourself who you are because it's not like easy to find a space where you can meet other little sorry age aggressors and feel comfortable with being open, talking about the experience and finding somebody to relate with. Because like one benefit probably for yourself with being online is like it's felt you less alone and with you found other people like I've found like as a like what I said about being autistic and stuff like that. It's from
Yeah,
really social media where you started to see stuff like that. Yeah, I remember like remember a few years before like started adult using adult pacifiers. Like I had the idea of like using them again and also because then found social media and you can find how it's like it's like something that other people actually it's not just yourself really and it's something that can be quite comforting and like you shouldn't feel too stigmatized about it and something that learning about it helps that realize that it's something that being autistic that stuff like pacifiers can help and that's why learning about the age regression community and start falling when it comes to like yourself. So what has like the impact of the community been for you and finding out what have you learned then?
I think the biggest impact is just the allowance to be myself. Going out into public, I always feel like I have to like put on a mask and be a certain person and be grown and play a part. But opening up within the age regressing community, it's just so nice to get to see other people that are similar to me and to understand that like the things that make me happy and that I enjoy doing are things that other people also enjoy and engage in. So I feel very validated in that way. I feel like I can make a post with a passy and in a onesie and feeling comfortable in myself, but also feeling like I can share that with other people and not get pushed away for it. It's definitely something I've come to really cherish in my life.
What was like then when you made a friend with somebody who know in real life that is an age regressor now that you can meet up with them or is it like been like finding them? What has it been like to find to now have a friend beyond the internet in real life? You can have that space where you can actually talk to somebody and be in that same space.
Yeah. It's honestly been very enlightening for me, especially as a live alone little. Most of my little space I do by myself. It's just been really eye opening in that I have been setting aside time to take care of me, and that's not always something that I was very good at. I kind of wanted to take care of everybody else, and I kind of put myself on the back burner. But taking that time to invest in myself and to really understand different parts of myself has been sometimes hard, but usually it's been very energizing. I feel like I can do things more. I feel less frustrated all the time. I feel like I find more joy in life, and being able to connect with other littles has really been just a blessing for me. It's hard to find other age regressors in real life to interact with, and I've found a few. I recently started making friends with one who I'm hoping that we can become friends enough to do like play dates, but I know that she's also like busy sometimes. There's definitely pros and cons, but I've also been able to find and be a part of really good online communities. Like it's Baby Lynn, and she will occasionally do littles only tea parties through Zoom, and it's just a bunch of other littles getting together and drinking our tea and talking to each other and getting to connect. And it's such a beautiful community to get to be a part of and to get to know some wonderful people. I feel really excited about that.
You've been able to find joy in your life. So what does joy mean for you?
Yeah. Joy for me is hard to explain. I think it's hard to explain a lot of emotions, but the best way I've ever figured it out is to think on like the somatic parts of what different emotions make my body feel. So when I'm really happy, I feel it like a little bit in the back of my throat and right in where like I think my diaphragm is. And I think that's just because I might be, I don't know, breathing more aggressively. So I'm just feeling those parts of my anatomy respond. But it's just that feeling that like you can't, that you just don't want to be sad. Like there's nothing that could really take it away. And of course, I mean, I'm sure that there in real life really is, but it is a very pure and internal happiness that I feel like really pushes us in life to want to continue and to keep feeling that. But even whenever I have to go to my grown-up people job and supervise other people, I'll talk with them, and if they're seeming really overwhelmed or stressed out that week, I'm just like, okay, well, what have you done this week that brings you joy? And if they tell me that they haven't done anything, and then I'm like, okay, well, you are now assigned homework to go do something that makes you happy. And I just think it's so important for people to find that in themselves. For me, it's getting to regress a little bit into my inner child. For other people, it might be going to play laser tag or getting together with friends. Like it's so different for everyone, but I think that work towards feeling joy and getting to express that wholeheartedly is really what life should be all about.
The ultimate comfort space, and what is the things that you really enjoy to do for self-care?
I'm still working out the ideal space. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy for me to live alone, so my whole house is just for me. I know that that's not the case for a lot of other people. Maybe they share a home with a partner, or maybe they have like human children. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. Mostly, I have experienced, like, done most of my little space self-care in like my living room. And so I'll like put on a cartoon and put out a craft that I want to work on, or break out some of my toys and set them up to where I want to play with them. But I'm trying currently a new thing where I am changing up one of the bedrooms in my apartment to be more like a little space bedroom, like a nursery. It's a work in progress, but I'm actually sitting in there now. I moved all my stuffies in here last night. I'm really excited to see what having a space in my home that's just for my age regression will be like, and what and how that will like encourage and give me that time and space to be small.
Yeah, so what are you hoping for what are the things that you hoping to get in there, or would like it to look like?
I want to make it a space. Currently, it has been a room that I just kind of store stuff in, and I keep all of my crafting supplies in here. But I would like it to be a little bit more functional, where I will actually work on my crafts in here and not just take all of my things to another room. actually like stay in here. So I want to make it a space where I can put on my cartoons, because I really like having background noise. I don't like it when it's too quiet, as well as a space that like the floor is open and I can keep all of my toys in here. I wish I could paint the walls, but I don't own the walls, so they will probably just stay white. But I really just want it to be a space that I can come in and hang out in here and be comfortable, and play video games or play dolls or sew something, make a passy, and just like hang out in a place that is specifically meant for me to regress in.
What are the crafts type things do you like to do?
I do a few things. So I got into decorating passies a while back, but then I also like to make beaded bracelets and necklaces and earrings. And I also taught myself how to sew, which is something that I really wanted to learn to do. My grandmother used to sew when I was little, and I would go into her sewing room and it always smelled the same. Like, so a sewing room, like there's a specific smell. It has something to do with like the iron and heating the fabrics over and over again. It just makes the room smell like a sewing room. My mom knew, and she taught me how to thread a sewing machine. From there, I really wanted to keep learning. And since then, I've made a couple of my own onesies. It's just been it's a fun thing that I get to put my hands to and really hyper fixate on for a while.
What are the cartoons things you like to watch, like the comfort TV shows or music or whatever, like what games and all that other things that you like to do when you're in that space?
I've always been a big Sims player. Like, I think there was the original Sims games, and I had a bunch of those when I was growing up. And then whenever Sims 2 came out, I played that. When Sims 3 came out, I played that. Whenever I was in my undergrad for college, Sims 4 came out. And so now I have that one and a bunch of the expansion packs. I had to get a gaming computer because these expansion packs were too much for my normal computer to handle. They're like, no, you got too much to put on this computer. We're going to shut down. So I had to get a new computer. I'm working on playing a game called Stray right now. Mama sent it to me, and it's a game about a little stray kitten that got lost, and he's trying to find his friends. But I got stuck on a part because there's also little like enemy monster things that try to jump on the kitty and eat it. And that scared me a little bit. So I had to take a break. But I also really get into playing like Animal Crossing, and that new little friend that I'm hoping to get more time to hang out with and do play dates with. She wants to play Mario Kart with me. So those are some of my video game things that I like to get into. I always have something playing on my TV in the background. So it's usually like just cycling through videos on YouTube, or I'll have Bluey on. I also really like Doc McStuffins and just classic Disney Pixar movies. I'm a big movie person because sometimes getting into a series is overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I can commit 2 hours, but not necessarily like 30.
I think with like series, I always find it for something like watched before, like that you're familiar with, especially if you were to start a new show again, like that's then a lot more effort and like to concentrate much on. And it's like when it comes to stuff, that's why I tend to prefer like comedies or dramas to something like you can easily watch and relax to and comfort
Yeah.
with.
I wish I liked getting into books more, but mostly because I still am in school. I do a lot of reading anyway. Uh, I don't really seek out more books to read. But when I do, they're mostly audiobooks, and I just listen while I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah, I think audiobooks are a bit better for myself. That's pretty much sums up your little space. And, as I said, you got your pasties and stuff like that, and your plus toys and your blankets in your little space. And spoken about that with your family, like being in little space, and how do they know about that? Or if they don't.
I think other than just like my general, very youthful personality, I've not really shared my little space with my family. At one point, I did have a friend that used to be one of my roommates when I was in college. she found my little page and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you have little space." And she was a little bit surprised, but I explained it to her. She's like, "Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Just so you know, I still love and support you and glad that you shared that with me. Thank you." So the people that I have in real life that know about it have all been very loving and supportive about it. But I have not outwardly gone to share it with my family yet.
Do you ever wish you started regressing before? Is there any things that you wish that you like never stopped doing in terms of do you wish you started using the pacifier before or anything like that?
I think just never stop exploring. Like, even if we get older physically, our brains are still so diverse, and we're going to constantly be finding things that we love and that we want to be a part of our lives forever. So I think just having that openness to be like, okay, well, maybe this is something I could try. This is something I'm curious about. Just having that openness is so important, because like you can continue to explore in yourself what makes you happy, and just keep growing as a human person, because life is hard sometimes, and we got to find those little pockets of joy wherever we.
So it's not like not something that you wish you like had before, like in terms like the like past phase and being more in like into the little space, but you're just glad you found it and like you're glad you found was able to explore it and learn in adulthood. This is something that you what makes you happy and glad you able to find this like space to explore all that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite good that you've been able to like discover that. Is there anything else you wanted to say that you haven't said already?
I guess I would say, if you would like to interact with me more, to check out my Instagram over at Little in Pink. Again, I have little periods in between the words. I do have my messages turned off, but I respond to comments.
One more question, like a podcast series before about neurodivergency, which you can still continuing to do, but also like with this one to explore about like the more neurodivergent, comforts and STEM and stuff. So, like, how do you see like age regression? Do you see it as a neurodivergent thing, or do you see it as just like something that isn't neurodivergent? I just want to put this question out there to see how, different regressors will talk to wellness podcasts, views the experience of age regression, because I know there's a lot of people who are autistic or also have a different neurodivergent conditions, whilst being age regressed. I want to see how they
It's hard to say. I don't know that it's specifically a neurodivergent thing, especially considering how many kink accounts have reached out to me about it. I don't know that the aggression or little space comes anywhere from a neurodivergent place. But then again, I've also met a lot of and spoken with a lot of other littles that, like, most of them are neurodivergent. So there's possibly a really strong correlation. I know, like, in myself, I have some pretty gnarly ADHD. My dad thinks I have some level of autism, but I've never been diagnosed. So I'm not going to claim that. it's it's really important to understand where your own regression comes from and what you need in that space, so that you can use it in a comfortable and like healthy manner.
Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Pacifying with Autisticly. This episode should be coming out every Wednesday on a podcast feed by searching for Pacifying with Autistically on your preferred podcasting platforms. So whether that's Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts is where you can find the podcast, and you can follow on at Pacifying Robotistically on social media, and also at newrainbowproject.com with any updates. On the podcast, you can DM and email New Rainbow at pacifying at newrainbowproject.com if you got any queries, any ideas you want to discuss for the podcast series, and hopefully I'll get more features and more ideas into the podcast as the series develops in the coming weeks of the series run of this podcast. As said, the next episode will be out next Wednesday on the podcast feed and video out next week. Out on next Thursday. Please, love on next week. I'll be chatting to a content creator on the social media, Love Intervene, about experiences of as an age progressor and being autistic, ADHD within the APTL community. We'll be talking about her experience as well as being autistic, as well as essentially experiences of incontinence now that can all happen in autistic people, and how you can find comfort in that, and and finding comfort in your age regress and identity within being neurodivergent, and be chatting about how what's been like finding yourself as a trans woman in the community, and being a trans autistic woman, be highlighted on some of that as well, because it's something that in my main podcast I've been yet to discuss what the experiences of being trans sort of, and within a neurodivergent community, which is something I hope to do on my main podcast feed. But as I say, stay tuned about the new Rainbow podcast website and feed for updates on the main podcast, as I hope to have some news about when he'll be returning, either from new series and new set of episodes. Hope to have that in the coming Sundays in the start of February, hopefully, with some exciting guests and ideas, and I'll have some exciting guest ideas for this podcast and the social media feeds. I'll hopefully have some nice stuff for you to interact with and join along with on this podcast. So please recommend this and subscribe to this, make sure people know about it. And hopefully that this will be a great podcast for you to listen to, as well as me getting something out of it, hosting it with some wonderful people. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you can subscribe and watch and listen to this next week. Bye.